What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Two Dudes in a Rabbit Hole. I'm David.
I'm Gavin.
And I'm a rabbit hole. I'm Riley.
We're going to be talking about the game recaps for the divisional round. I'm going to start it off with the Jaguars versus the Chiefs. I thought this was a great game. I thought the Jaguars had every chance to potentially take this game away from the Chiefs. And I think, depending on how bad Mahomes' ankle actually is, will determine how bad the Bengals whoop on the Chiefs.
Ooh.
Trevor
Okay.
Lawrence played really well, in my opinion. There were, a couple errant throws, the interception, which if he just put a little more into the throw, I know it was hard because he was getting rushed at the time, so it was, he just had to get it up there. But if he put a little more into it, that would have been probably an amazing play and could have gotten him back into it, but we don't know. And then that fumble in the red zone really, really killed him, which was borderline an incomplete pass, borderline, fumble. But who's here to argue?
We are.
Who wants to take it next? Who wants to take it next?
You go for it, Riley. I'll go last.
Okay. I mostly just agree with David here. I actually disagree on one thing. I don't think Trevor Lawrence played spectacularly. I thought it was fine. It was all right. It felt to me like he just didn't really push the ball downfield a whole lot, is what I was under the impression of. Like he had a few longer completions, but I kind of think this offense is predicated around like a lot of catch and run, and I don't think that's a bad thing or anything like that because I think Lawrence isn't going to get to the same level as like the top tier quarterbacks. I think he probably settles in a tier below that at his peak. Like, could very well be a Hall of Famer still, which is amazing, but I don't know if he's going to be talked about like Mahomes, like an Allen, like a Burrow. But nothing wrong with that. It's hard to get there. So I thought he played all right. I just think they were really hitting the run game, and they just didn't really do it a lot. Like they were just kind of gashing the Chiefs on a lot of plays, and it felt weird that they didn't run the ball more as I was watching this game because I felt like it could have really not just kept them in it, but I agree with David. I think they had a chance to steal it. Like they could have went in there, stolen it. It probably would have taken overtime, if like that wasn't a fumble and they were able to punch it in there. But I think it's a missed opportunity. But if you're the Jaguars, you're still happy that you had a really good, relatively close game against a team that went 14-3. So I thought it was good. I think we're just gonna have to see how Mahomes is looking afterward. The offense still looked pretty good, didn't look great. I'm pretty worried about that ankle though, so we're gonna have to see about next week. What do you have, Gavin?
I agree with what both you and David had said about the game. On the Chiefs side of things, I think they should have ran with Pacheco more because I think in that game specifically he was doing way better than Jerick McKinnon was. But I also think a lot of that went out the window when Mahomes got hurt. I know he did come back, but again, as you guys said, we're going to focus on how bad that ankle is because even if Mahomes is limited, he's still probably like one of the best pocket passing quarterbacks in the league, which is still crazy to think about. But it's definitely going to make it a little bit easier when they do, when the Bengals do play against it because they won't have to worry too much about that outside escapability factor. But yeah, I don't have too much more to say on that. Overall for the Jags, great season. Like you guys said, he kept it within a score against a team that has gone to 5 straight AFC championships, and just having that young group of guys know that they can get to and potentially compete with teams like that is exciting. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I just want to add, I don't think Trevor Lawrence played spectacular. I meant to say he played well. The thing that I saw that kind of concerned me a little was he wasn't able to really drive the ball deep when he needed to. There were throws that he could have easily made if he just put more oomph under the ball.
Yeah.
And considering Mahomes couldn't even, drop back to hand the ball off, even in the late game, that shows the real concern for that ankle. Like, he couldn't step into throws. He couldn't do anything. He had the 1 foot throw everything. So that's my
Yeah.
only concern with him.
I'm actually going to fall in the boat of I don't think they should have let him back in the game. And even if you do, I think after that first drive, you say, dude, you can't even like do this properly. We talked, ended up determining you were good to go. I would have pulled him. And that's, not saying anything about like, oh, does Mahomes hobble give you a better chance than Chad Henne? I think they're probably winning the game either way, to be honest, because from that point on, they scored 10 points, and I think Henne could have given them 10 points. And I just think it wasn't worth the risk, like whether it's for his career, whether it was for next round potentially. I just don't think it was worth it. And I know it's a lot easier to say that sitting in my fucking living room rather than being out there and trying to tell Patrick Mahomes you can't play. I totally get that. I just
They
think
took
there
his
comes.
helmet away from him already. They had already taken his helmet away.
Yeah, I just don't think you can let him in. Just like, look, dude, you're not going back in there. You can't make a handoff properly. You're not going back in. I'm not denying it was gutsy. Not denying it wasn't a really solid performance afterward. He was clearly
Still
hobbled,
Patrick
and if one
Mahomes.
more thing, even if they win, he's out for the next 2 rounds. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was the right call personally, but I understand how hard it's gonna be to tell him no.
Yeah. On to the Giants versus the Eagles. Gavin, take us away.
So
All upset, David.
this game was probably what everyone expected except David. He predicted that the Giants were going to come out and upset the Eagles, but I mean, they just from the word go took over, and to me, the game really showed two things. One, the Giants just need help in terms of weapons. I mean, it's basically Daniel Jones and Saquon. That's basically it on the offensive side. So definitely prioritize getting receivers, whether that be free agent or drafting or who knows what. And it also showed me the difference from the Giants' perspective playing against a Vikings defense and playing against an Eagles defense, because the Eagles were monsters on defense. And it's funny because as a Niners fan, seeing that, it's like, oh my God, like this is also another one of these like just super duper complete teams, crazy roster from top to bottom. And they play like that. They just came out and they dominated. And for the Giants, it sucks losing to a divisional opponent, but they have been like the man the whole season. So I just take this season for them as like a pretty big win. The fact that you got a playoff win, you got to the playoffs with what you had. So just continuing to develop their guys and hopefully get more weapons for Daniel Jones, and they could easily be right back where they were next year, a few years down the road. So that's basically what I took away from it. But yeah, the Eagles are just going to be a really tough out. So I'm excited to see that Eagles-Niners game this upcoming week.
Awesome. Yeah, I turned this game off at halftime. To be honest, this was one of those games where it seemed pretty apparent to me that there was like a clear outmatching and it wasn't anything like fluky. And I went, oh, shit. Yeah, this Eagles team looks exactly how it did previous, or like 95% of it before Jalen Hurts went out. And dear God, this is going to be hopefully an amazing NFC Championship game. And yeah, I don't have too much to say on the game. Like, Eagles beat the shit out of them. I totally get what the upset pick was. I'm going to admit it. midweek, I almost tried to call for another podcast and switch 3 of my 4 picks after thinking about things for a bit more. Yeah, not gonna lie, I almost flopped on the second, third, and fourth games, which would have been better for me actually, but I decided not to. So yeah, not so much to say. Just dominant win, easy win, good season for the Giants. What do you have, David?
Yeah, no, you guys pretty much summed it up. I was hoping the Giants were gonna upset the Eagles. I would have thought that was cool. Kind of reminisce a little bit, to the early years watching football when the Giants, went all the way to the Super Bowl and beat Tom Brady, and Daniel Jones beats Patrick Mahomes. But the Eagles proved who they were yet again. So it was good on them. But like Gavin said, Giants need weapons. Saquon and Daniel Jones can't do everything.
They can try.
Yeah, obviously it doesn't work.
Not at the highest levels, no.
Now on to the Bengals and Bills.
Okay, I'll lead this one off. Look, a super small rant here, and it's not even a rant. It's more just saying I'm grateful. I am grateful that it looks to me like we definitely have the 4 best teams in the NFL in the championship games. That's not usually the case. Like, that wasn't the case last year, I can tell you that. It's pretty rare to get that. Usually somebody gets upset, somebody gets, beaten early. These are the 4 best teams. It's the 1 and 2 seed from the NFC where the Cowboys got outplayed by the 49ers. Think that's the right thing. And on the other side, the only question was like, oh, shouldn't the Bills be above the Bengals? The Bengals made it pretty clear they were the second best team in the AFC and a top 4 team. And I do think the Bills are still on that level. Like, I think there were 5 elite teams. There's only 4 spots. And holy shit, did the Bengals take it to the Bills. The score, it should have been worse. As bad as that sounds, losing by 17 at home, it should have been worse. It should have been 31, 34, 38 to 10. They kicked the shit out of them. Gavin and I talked about this briefly yesterday, and I was trying to figure out exactly how this game got out of hand and what the difference was. And I think it was the weather. And I think the way we usually think about the weather is, how is the defense? Is it good? Is it bad? Can it play smash mouth? How's the offensive run game? And my first thought was, the Bengals run game is pretty pedestrian the last couple years. The Bills can just run if Josh Allen. They didn't run if Josh Allen for the most part, which I think swayed it back toward the Bengals. And the Bengals obviously had a killer day running the ball. I think the difference maker was actually just the playmakers on the Bengals. It felt like every time there needed to be a play, they would just come through for it. And I think that's something I don't think about with cold weather is like, how big are your receivers? They're fucking huge. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have separation. They're just going to go up and take the ball from anybody who's around. And I think that was probably the biggest difference. That and Bengals defense continues to be completely average in the regular season and look fucking amazing in the playoffs. So, yeah, I don't think ill on Josh Allen. It was a shitty game. It happens. I do think you probably got to put Burrow ahead of him now, though, as painful as that is.
I don't think it's that painful. I think it's about the right thing. My thing is the difference between when Bills would run with Josh Allen during the regular season is the pocket would collapse. The Bengals didn't really collapse they beat him around the edges, but they kept that front 3 pretty much intact. So Josh Allen didn't really have any avenues to run to when he was going through his progressions.
Yeah. I
so
think
that
they should
forces him to
have.
stake in and take the sack, fumble.
I think they should have had like designed quarterback runs.
Oh, absolutely. And
I think that would have really helped. Like, he's huge, and you get an extra
and he's
blocker basically.
strong. He's not
God,
just huge;
so...
he's fucking strong.
Yeah.
There was one run he had where it was like he got hit after like 5 yards and then carried someone for an extra like 3 or 4 as a quarterback. Like, come on. But yeah, no, it exposed a lot of problems with the Bills' defense and their defensive coordinator, and the fact that they have no talent on defense.
I can't go that far, but they
Um,
had a super dramatic drop off in their pass rushing
yeah,
when Von Miller. It went from top 3 to like 27th or something like that, like really dramatic.
yeah, because you have to focus a lot more on Von Miller.
Yeah.
But I have a small rant to go on afterwards. It's a tinfoil
Yeah,
hat
no, hit it,
rant.
man. Hit it.
No,
I'm
no,
good.
I'll let Gavin go before I hit my tinfoil hat rant.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Gavin.
It's going to be something about quarterbacks and matchups and bullshit. Okay.
All right, sounds good. I'll try to keep mine short so that you can have yours. But basically, what I saw was one team seemed ready to go, and that was the Bengals. And the fact that they had their scripted plays, scored the first drive, got a good stop, and I don't know if they scored the second drive or the third drive, but just going up 14-0 on the road in the snow against the Bills, which a lot of us put on that pedestal of top 2, best teams in the AFC. And it was definitely a statement win. And I didn't see it going that way just because I had overthought the fact that the Bengals were missing 3 of their starting offensive line. So even though I knew the Bills didn't have as good of a pass rush missing Von Miller, I still thought that missing that many starting offensive linemen that you could still get pressure and get in Joe Burrow's face, but that was not the case. I don't think he was even sacked, or if he was, maybe like once or twice. I'm not 100% sure, but it's very, very low. I was expecting like 4, maybe 5. And then I think that combined with just getting the ground game going, because I don't think either of you guys really mentioned that too much, but for the majority of the season, Joe Mixon was playing like doo-doo, just not good at all. Something like 2.9 or 3.1 yards per carry. It's like his career low and just very, very bad. And he comes out this game, and I believe it was like 20 rushes for 105 yards. I believe he scored a touchdown, not 100% sure, but yeah, just an amazing game, because if you can rely on that as well as Joe Burrow making those plays, extending drives, then I mean, the Bengals can beat anyone. And they're going into versus a Kansas City that has an injured Mahomes, and that injury to Mahomes might be enough to have Joe Burrow have potentially a back-to-back Super Bowl making seasons. So it was a good game. I think for the Bills, they have to go back and vamp up the pass rush on the defense, not just have it be to a Von Miller, and as well get a running back, whatever that looks like. If they have to draft Bijan Robin, or is it Bijan Johnson or Robinson from Tennessee, or if they spend big-ish money and get Josh Jacobs or something. Not sure, but
Hey,
yeah,
watch it.
because they can pass,
That's
they
actually a
can
great
pass,
point. I kind of love it.
but if they can get another like a really good go-to running back, I think that will kind of help complete the Bills and make them even tougher to stop, because basically their runner is Josh Allen, and while that's fine and all, you don't want to keep going that route. You don't want it to become like a Lamar Jackson situation where you're now limited for next 2 or 3 seasons. But other than that, yeah, back to my point, the Bengals just basically had the Bills number from start to finish. They came out and they played better, and a lot of credit to Zach Taylor and that coaching staff.
Before David starts going on, I have 2 quick things. First is, I think the Bills, even after that game, I think the issue for them is they have the highest highs and the lowest lows of like the top, let's say 6 teams or so, which is the last 6 teams that were in the playoffs, like the 4 that made it, and then the Cowboys and the Bills. I think they legitimately had the highest highs. Like they could have beaten the shit out of anybody or gotten their ass kicked by anybody. And I think we got to see the downside of that. It's really hard to win that way 3 or 4 straight games, depending on if you have a bye week. And I think they just kind of need to raise their floor because their ceiling is already spectacular. And the second thing I want to mention is, what was it? Oh, I feel like they just kind of built a dome team while playing in New York on the outside in the snow during the winter, which is kind of weird. Like they have a dome team and they're not a dome team. I don't know. It doesn't feel like they played to getting home field advantage very well because they didn't really look prepared for the weather compared to the Bengals. Okay,
I agree.
David?
Real quick about Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's average pass time was like 2.4 seconds that entire game.
That is
he didn't need time.
Average, which is hilarious.
So, like, yeah. But tinfoil hat time.
This season was like 2.2, by the way. It was the fastest in the league. He's been killing it.
Tinfoil hat time. So, I've seen some videos on the TikTok and all that jazz about Damar Hamlin. And can you guess what the tinfoil hat things are saying?
That they kind of actually needed Damar Hamlin because he was replacing Jordan Poyer. So their secondary was really weak. Oh, okay, sorry. I was just going with like on the field. I guess that's not very tinfoil. Okay.
People are saying that he's not actually alive.
Continue.
So, out of all the...
That literally gave me chills, by the way, not going to lie.
Out of all the photos and videos of Damar Hamlin since the incident, how many of you seen where his face is actually visible?
I mean, I
haven't seen anything, to be honest with you. Like, I don't click on Twitter, and everything comes through Twitter on Bleacher Report, so I don't really actually see anything on that.
I saw before the Eagles played the Giants that Miles Sanders, because I guess he was like pretty good buddies with Damar Hamlin and went to the same college or whatever, but he FaceTimed him pre-game, and they were waving like to each other. He was in his hospital bed and stuff.
Okay, because looking back at all like the public
what
photos,
you're saying, wow, this would be a hell of a cover up. Oh my god, I absolutely see what you're saying though. Because if he were to die, that would be like the biggest black mark possible in the NFL, basically.
Yeah.
And there's only been one player to ever die, and it was in 1971. That being said, like all these, there's a lot of photos and videos of when he was at the game. People are saying it's not actually him because you can't actually see his face. You never once see his face. You see like a glimpse from the side angle, but he's wearing sunglasses and he's wearing a hooded, like winter jacket in a heated fucking room.
It is in Buffalo, so I kind of get it. Let the record show.
But those rooms are heated. They're not.
So fucking. I wear shorts outside in the snow. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, there's talks because that would be a big black mark. But tinfoil hat rant over. We can continue on.
Dude, so okay, I gotta talk about it now. Oh my god, I've literally never heard about this, so my mind is like spinning thinking about it. Do I think that's the case? I do not. I think that is not the case. I don't think this is actually true. I don't think David thinks this is true, but I do think we're not putting it below 0%. I think there's at least a 0.1% chance that this tinfoil hat thing is actually true. With that being said, it would be a massive black mark on the NFL. It would be huge if somebody were to die in a game.
He did die.
People die. God damn it. People die playing football or other sports all the time. It's just not usually at the highest levels. Why is that? Because there's an astronomically higher amount of players playing at the lower levels. How many high schools are there? Thousands. How many NFL teams are there? 32. So people die every year. Multiple people die oftentimes. Like there's heart conditions, there's like heat stroke, there's a ton of stuff. There's coaches who've run their players in the ground until they die. Like that sounds insane. That's true. So this stuff does happen. This has always been a risk in the NFL, in the NBA. Probably not baseball because, it's baseball. But I'm sure it's probably happening too. Like this happens. This is part of the game. It sounds insane, but there's a 1 in however many chance you can die. And if Damar Hamlin did pass away, which he didn't, which I'd like to make my stance on this clear, then I just kind of have to accept that it's like a 1 in a billion chance, but you have more than a billion chances throughout the course of like every calendar year for it to happen.
Yeah, I don't believe it's true either. Just to get that out there, I'm just saying tinfoil hat theory that I've seen float around the internet, and it would make sense but it's not what I actually believe.
Okay.
But like, and it's also kind of strange how the NFL moved to different types of padding recently, like shoulder pads and stuff. And the most common shoulder pad doesn't actually have to where they cross over. So the plates just kind of get hooked together by like a little strap in the middle, like dead center where your breastplate is. And Damar Hamlin got hit with a shoulder pad straight into that spot.
So I don't think either of us probably know a whole lot of stuff medically. My wife actually knows something, which is crazy. Basically, she said in order for something like that to happen, you basically need like a 1 in a million chance of the impact happening at the exact moment in between heartbeats. Basically, like we're looking like literally like a 1 in a million, 1/1,000,000th of a second connection. And the fact it doesn't happen more often is actually kind of surprising, she said, with like how many impacts there are. So
yeah, but you also have to think about I get what she's saying, but you also have to have a certain amount of force caused in those moments.
I'm agreeing that if it were to allow more force to get through, then yes, that could absolutely increase your likelihood. If you have to have a certain amount of force threshold, you're going to hit that more often if the padding is less effective.
Yeah, and like in the middle, right where the two chest plates kind of get tied together, it's literally just like string is what it looks like. There's no actual like plate covering that area to distribute any of the force.
This is a off tangent thing, but kind of related. It would be funny if Damar Hamlin becomes kind of the next version of Eric Berry.
Oh,
that would be kind of crazy.
So here's the thing: whether we're going to get this answer because we're going to be able to watch them play, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you were convinced of this, I'll bet you he's playing next season, right? Mm-hmm. He plays next season, and we're going to see either clips spliced together where you're like, his technique is completely different. This doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. He looks like a different height standing next to his teammates, shit like that, right? We're either going to see that or we're not. And if we're not talking about it, it's probably because that's not out there and it's not being seen.
Bum, bum, bum. It's not Damar Hamlin, tinfoil hat.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on the... That was an amazing fucking tangent because I hadn't heard anything about that.
No.
Great rabbit hole.
Went over that.
Okay.
Let's on to the Cowboys and Niners. Gavin, take it off.
Gavin, hit it.
Oh, Riley, can you actually go? I accidentally put something in my mouth.
Okay, I'll try not to say too much then. So this game, I picked the Cowboys to win. And the reason I did is because I thought there had to be like a midnight moment at some point for Purdy, or he wins the Super Bowl, or he like loses in a shootout, right? Like those are your three situations. So Dallas's defense looked the part. Like, they genuinely did. Like, they went out and, like, the first or second drive pretty scrambled out. And holy shit, dude, those linemen for Dallas are so fucking fast. Purdy was like, oh shit, I can't actually get the edge. I just have to throw this away. Dallas's defense, I think, was probably the third best defense in the league this year, just based off eye test. Maybe fourth if you want to count like Bills with Von Miller. But that defense showed up. They were elite. They held them to 19 points. It could have very easily been 13 points. There was a turnover. That was an easy field goal for the Niners. And there was the other turnover right before halftime where Dallas should have been able to run the clock down and either get a field goal or a touchdown late and not give the Niners a chance. Like, that's 6 points right there. That makes it a 1 point game. Miss extra point. That makes it a tie. Dallas should have scored when they had the turnover right after the 2 minute warning. That's basically like a 10 to 14 point swing. Like, this very easily could have been Dallas. Very easily could have been. With that being said, it certainly felt like Dak sucked ass, and that was the primary reason they lost. So yeah, take it up, Gavin.
All right. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, coming out, it was a very, very slow, super duper defensive game on both sides. But we knew going into this that whoever played the cleanest game was more than likely going to win. And I give a lot of credit to Dallas's defense because I thought kind of the winning formula was to just run at them. And in the first half, they were doing a really good job at defending the run. I think Christian McCaffrey in the first half was like 10 for 27 or something like that.
I think it was 17.
And, yeah, it was really low. And so they held it close. Dak just had a late read, threw it straight to the corner. The corner ran the comeback route better than Michael Gallup did.
It was so hard to watch that one.
Yeah, and then then once they got the second turnover and went up 9-6, that third quarter onwards, the Niners kind of found their footing and took more control of the game. Also, the fact that Tony Pollard went out too, because I think he is their best running back. He's kind of one of those guys that can break. Like, if he jukes a defender or something, he can get you yards because he's just that quick. He's a big playability type of guy, so not having that really limits Dallas's offense. Because, I mean, the only really good guy on the Dallas's offense was CeeDee Lamb. I think he had like 9 for 110. It was insane.
10 for 117.
Either way, that's still pretty good.
Yeah,
yes.
Really good.
But yeah, so the Niners ended up with the higher turnover differential, even though they gave Dallas a basically freebie from the special teams turnover. Brock Purdy, even though it was hurried and was hustled, had a couple throws that could have been picked off, but those also go to the shoulda, woulda, couldas. It just happened that Purdy didn't have any turnovers and Dak did, so Purdy outplayed Dak, and the Niners stayed more consistent, and they got away with the win. And if they're going to try to beat the Eagles, they have to play mistake-free as well. And a lot of those shoulda, coulda, wouldas, more likely than not, Philly is going to get those. So just shore it up a little bit and you'll be okay.
Just real quick thing before David jumps in. They adjusted at halftime. The 49ers, despite being like a really beefy, really strong team, they want to run the ball outside more often than not, or at least way more than the average team. They switched from outside to inside runs at halftime because Dallas's defense was just fast enough to stop it. They would just get to the edge as soon as the Niners did, and they were able to really shut it down. They switched to pounding it inside, and the Niners, like, I don't know what it was in the second half, but I want to say it was like 4.5 yards a carry, which was like way, way better. So yeah. Okay. David?
Okay, so I picked the Niners to win. I only had them by 3, though. I don't know what Gavin had as the final score.
I had 27-21 Niners.
Okay. Okay, so you had a closer point differential, but my score of 24-21 is a little closer to the actual score. Either way, regardless. So I think Dak is done in Dallas. They can't.
Where can he go though?
Detroit.
So you're
Las
thinking
Vegas.
like it have to be like this has to be a trade for another large contract or a team with considerable cap space.
The Lions have a ton of cap space available,
I
and
heard
Sorry.
potential Aaron Rodgers one.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting.
either
Because
way,
I think. Oh, sorry, go on.
Dak's done in Dallas. Zeke's probably done in Dallas too. It's unfortunate that Pollard broke his ankle. I watched it live, and that was ugly. That hurt to watch. But I have a few things.
Hit
So,
him.
are we gonna call Dak the new Kirk Cousins?
He's already been called that for a couple years. I think despite what Kirk did this year, I still think he's half a level up, but I still think he falls under the category after the last 2 seasons specifically of you kind of need either like a really, really complete team around them, which I think they were a receiver short of being a complete team,
Mm-hmm.
or you just kind of need a lucky run a la Joe Flacco, Eli Manning in order to get there. I don't think he's a guy who's going to put you over the top. At the moment, I still think there's a world where he could prove he is, and I don't think there's a world where Kirk can do that. So,
And then rabbit hole number 2.
he's not
Take
alive
this.
either. Okay, makes
Take
a
this
lot of sense.
same.
Those are bad.
Take this same exact Cowboys team. Remove Dak. Put in Tony Romo. Do you think they're Super Bowl contenders?
Gavin, I want you to hit this first because I'm going to go on a tangent.
Yes. Does he play better than Dak? I don't know. Tony Romo has also had a couple playoff scenarios where he has definitely dropped the ball, or in this case, a snap.
Okay,
And but no, in terms of just like quarterbacking, yeah, they would be better with Romo right now. If that's, I'm assuming you're saying prime Romo, but
but
All right,
even going
Romo.
even going to Cooper Rush, I think if they had Cooper Rush in there, I think this game's closer.
that's fair enough.
Um,
Can I say something real quick though? Through
yeah,
all
hit
the
it.
years that Romo had, success, they still lacked a defense. Like, yeah, they had some good times on defense, but their offense is what kept them in it. Romo never had the supporting cast around him with a defense. And this Cowboys defense we're seeing now is pretty spectacular. And I
I don't
think
know.
they're going to
Demarcus
be fierce.
Demarcus Demarcus Ware is pretty good, right, Riley?
Yes, but I do see what David's saying in terms of I just said this Cowboys defense was at worst the fourth in the NFL. That's really lofty praise considering there's a real chance if the NFC wins the Super Bowl, we're going to be looking at like a top 15 all-time defense between one of those teams. And I think they weren't that far off from the Niners or Eagles defensively.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, give Tony Romo that supporting cast. You think he does it? Because I think he does.
So, okay, I'm going to extinguish this right now. Tony Romo had that supporting cast at a couple points in his career. He didn't have it all the time. But when he did, and he went 13-3 and he was the 1 seed, and they kicked the shit out of the 2 seed that year, like destroyed them, they came up short and lost to the Giants and looked bad doing it. That Giants team won the Super Bowl, so you might not think a lot of it. They were supposed to beat that Giants team by like 8 points. They were supposed to roll them. That didn't happen. Other than that, I will say I think Romo gives you a higher floor, but a lower ceiling. It's where I think Dak can give you a higher ceiling because he's going to make a few more plays. But I also think the floor is lower, unfortunately, and we definitely saw that. So that's going to be my stance. I'd have to go back and fact check some of the defense stuff over the decade of Romo.
Okay. Well, that looks like it's going to complete us for our game recap of the divisional round. See you later. See you later, ladies and gentlemen.